This isn't directed at anybody specifically or meant for any one person. I am just venting about some confounding societal frustrations that have been eating at my mind for a while. I wrote it down just to get it out. Most of you already know that I've been single since sometime in June 2011. Haven't dated, haven't held hands, haven't even kissed a girl on the cheek, until New Year's. Nothing. Celibate. It's been the single greatest test of self-esteem, self-control, and self-worth that I have ever chosen to put myself through. It has been both easier and yet harder in ways I didn't expect. Mostly it has been freaking awesome, actually. Not having to or even wanting any sort of relationship. None of the bullshit drama or stupid arguments that inevitably plague your average unhealthy relationship. No painful frustration that is typically accompanied and instigated by the festering splinter of unsubstantiated jealousy over stupid assumptions that were manifested by the lack of communication from your other half that builds walls from fault lines, smashes trust, whilst tearing chunks from the heart, and savagely wreaking havoc in the mind and the gut. As I passively observe people in their natural habitat, sounds creepy but no seriously, just hanging out with friends, or going to bars, restaurants, supermarkets, hotel parties, wherever. I realized at some point that I was cueing into body language people were portraying that I hadn't recognized before. Aspects of social interaction between humans that actually seemed inhuman, animalistic, and almost primal in nature, from an abstract perspective. Quite frankly, an aspect of what I noticed disgusted me. Literally and seriously. The realization damn near made me sick. A scene from Fear and Loathing pops into my head. Tripping on acid at the bar, he realizes, the room is full of reptiles. All just grinding and slurping and fucking. Oh my god. Who are these goddamn animals? Where the fuck are my golf shoes? After being an accessory to the flabbergastingly pathetic codependent usury that my former girlfriend utilized aggressively to dominate the last unhealthy relationship I will ever tolerate in my life, I gravitated towards romantic isolation for a while, maybe for a little too long? Not long enough? I guess that's what this is about. Throwing out my crazy patterns of thought and posting for all to see. How crazy am I? I think I'm tripping myself on purpose so that I have to get up, recognize, evaluate, address, and possibly modify my experience-based, though most likely, flawed, logic. Anyway, I decided I was done wasting my time playing the relationship game. It was time for some self-focus and life progress. The test was committing to that and being serious about it. Stuff your urges and use your higher brain function for a while. Moron. It seemed like the right thing to do at the time, and 5 months shy of 4 years later, I still in no way, shape, or form regret that decision. I suppose I needed to prove to myself, for myself, that my personal self-worth and sense of accomplishment isn't and wasn't derived from the feeling of being with and needed by another. That I didn't need a girlfriend to feel good about myself and validate my existence. That I can be happy, just being me. I honestly feel like I wholeheartedly accomplished that. Yet still, something clicked a while back. I'm not sure what. Though I'm no longer content with being completely independent in a physical sense, maybe an emotional respect, but definitely an intellectual aspect, anymore. I feel like I'm missing something now. And I don't know what in the hell it is exactly. What I even want or am truly ready for, to be honest. Nevertheless, it really seems as though dating opportunities continue to present themselves at a rate in which I am not accustomed to. Why now, I wonder? Maybe I just notice more, now that I care to look? Not that it's a bad thing at all, it's flattering and kinda has me wanting to giggle to myself. Like a child that just discovered he got one over on his parents. Unexpected, unprecedented, titillating and mildly puzzling. Tread lightly. Troy. Use your powers for good, not for evil. That is what my friend Matt told me when I was 15. He opened my eyes to the power I had. And now, I have to remind myself that with great power comes great responsibility. And oh, what power you have in knowing you could shatter somebody's sense of wholeness by breaking the spider web of trust they've handed you. You are foolish if that power doesn't provoke you to walk softly and take care what you say. I am afraid of that power. It's been a long time since I've had it, or handed someone my own. It's been so long that if the right situation arose, I do see a real danger of being able to rationally delude myself into wantonly dismissing my integrity and morals for a night of long anticipated physical contact and sexual gratification with a free and beautiful woman. I can see myself making a stupid and impulsive decision, one that ultimately doesn't affect just me. I can hear the cracks under my feet as the weight of me doubles, just thinking about being near another and all the drama that comes with them. I'm afraid the ice might give before I realize I've stepped out too far and it's too late to go back. And what do I have to offer a woman other than myself anyway? A motorcycle ride? The pleasure of my company. That sounds so trivial and dare I say pathetic, even to me. Am I alone enough? Should more be expected? I have nothing of any real value to offer a seriously interested woman. Not that there are any anyway, but if there were, would my perspective and my stimulating conversation be enough? My assorted, jack of all trades yet master of none type skills good enough? Probably not. In fact, I come with baggage. Haha. I'm kidding myself here in even entertaining the notion that a healthy relationship of any kind is even remotely possible in this labeled, pseudo-intellectual, twisted, sex-infused, morally bastardized world. Ha. Delusions of grandeur. I learned the hard way a long time ago that the fucking stove is hot as shit. And I can't help but feel stupid for knowing this yet still wanting to touch the damn thing anyway. I know it'll hurt. I know it'll scar. Maybe it'll be different this time. She seems nice. What's the definition of insanity again? Many blatant opportunities have presented themselves to me over the past few months in which a rapport was quickly developed with an attractive woman. Flirting soon followed, progressing into sexual tension and googly eyes. Which, if I had let, would have ended in sex probably that same night and without me even having to try hard at all. Or make any commitments at all for that matter. In fact, my most recent confounding realization derived from the experience gleaned over the past few months is just that. This morally detestable behavior is exactly what most women expect from a guy they just meet and know is interested in them. Seriously. It's as though they're subconsciously driven to seek this. They expect to be asked for dirty pics and tit sizes. They expect men to be flesh-seeking pigs only lusting for sex. Because most men are. This goes both ways though, just not as prevalent the other way around. I think. I hope. Fake it till you make it, baby. And oh God, how many women know this, yet oblige it anyway. Christ. I guess to some the wrong attention is better than no attention, huh? Guess it is easier to ignore a legitimate opportunity to break the vicious bastard cycle than it is to just keep on doing the same stupid shit. Over, and over, and over. So with that experience-dictated expectations so engraved into the psyche of what appears to be the SOP of most women, how exactly does a man express to a woman who is accustomed to being treated like a piece of meat that, hey, I like you and I would sincerely like to actually get to know you as a human fucking being before even considering if I even want to go down any remotely sexual relationship type route with you, and actually be taken seriously? Let's entertain the idea for a moment that I had indeed determined there was something worth pursuing with the woman I've met. Some potentially meaningful future. And that I didn't end all notion of romantic ideas before they could even take root, over one red flag or another. You'd think that me showing respect and not being a pervy creep fuck would put me first in line, right? Wrong. Dead. Fucking. Wrong. It's a trap. That's the goddamned friend zone, dumbass. The laws of rationality are gone, boys. I've been repeatedly disregarded as a viable dating, relationship, sex option because I didn't follow the social normalcy of immediately taking advantage of moral relativism and making a sexual advance. Kinda had me butthurt. I'm still kind of stymied over this. It blew my fucking mind actually. That is until I asked myself, do I really want a woman that is so easily undressed? If I know she is willing to so easily forego her morals, and is also smoking hot, can I even stop myself from being that easily bed? Fuck. It has become so blatantly apparent to me that this is the social problem destroying our youth's installation of morality, perception of unity, and concept of family. And that this is an issue significantly worse and way more common than I had previously realized. This conclusion is drawn from the looks of relief that I have been met with when an interested woman, wary from being previously hurt, who has been mentally questioning my intent since we met, actually realizes that I'm not there trying to get into her fucking pants. The mild confusion when shown simple respect, the realization of which is inevitably followed by a statement of awe, gratitude, and appreciation. That I am not the typical womanizing asshole like everybody else is, and they had expected me to be. This has happened several times. So again, let's just be friends. That's like your fish going tits up and your mom saying, you can still keep it if you want to. The fuck did I just hear? What the hell am I gonna do with a dead fish? Women and men, not all of you, but most of you, need to get it straight. Seriously. You fuck on the first day you meet someone. That's lust, not love. You're in love with the feelings that person can physically make you feel, but you will never truly and wholeheartedly love the soul that is that person. Is that wrong? Not necessarily if there's adequate communication, but trying to form any meaningful relationship from that foundation is foolish. Plain stupid. Deluding yourself into thinking otherwise is ignorant, irresponsible, and dangerous for your potential offspring and their inherited attitude towards the world. Isn't that psychosis? Abandon ship. There used to be a process, apparently now lost in time, some decades ago. It was an idea whose function provided a form that people willingly followed because it was admirable, respectable, honorable, and therefore, desirable. It was moreover considered by all to be sexually promiscuous and whorish, acting otherwise, judging by the state our society is in now. Having mostly abandoned this concept, I can now see that it was there for one hell of a good goddamn reason. In fact, it used to be that if you gave in to the primordial desire to be sexually promiscuous and bear children out of meaningless relations born of momentary lust, you would have been publicly ostracized. You had no fucking standing in the community for shit. You were publicly considered a whore and treated as such, for such an obvious lack of restraint over one's animalistic drives. People used to understand how to control thyself. When people traded their self-respect for hollow, meaningless moments of pleasure, birth rate rises and divorce rates skyrocket. It seriously seems as though people just decided to let their morals, values, and self-respect go to shit in lieu of an instantly sexually gratifying exploit, and they just accept all the bullshit that comes with it without even a second thought that maybe, just maybe, they might be worth more than being treated like a piece of meat with a pretty face glued to a vagina. Or did people just forget to teach their kids this shit? This social interaction technique I've been alluding to will actually help avoid bullshit like that. Help people from impulsively acting upon potent and hard to ignore primal sexual desires that they know shouldn't be acted upon willy-nilly. If they just had the tools, then maybe people could dismiss more easily the irrational decisions pushed by urges. Tools in the form of being given a common SOP to adhere to. A way to back the fuck out before shit gets too deep. There is no common moral ground in that regard anymore. It's just a mutually pathetic state of how much can I use you to fill my needs before it's obvious you're being used and I realize you're in fact doing the same thing to me. It's bullshit. How the fuck did our society get this way? I don't like this. Yet this is how everybody acts. What everybody expects. Why? What if I don't like you after the first week of knowing you? This idea? Your great-grandparents were probably the last generation to seriously give it any legitimate credit. But don't feel bad for not knowing it though. It comes from a period of history when education was actually structured in a logical fashion and interwoven with morals, and a lot less blatantly advertised sex. It's called dating. And oh, what a novel concept it is. Through the method known as dating, a person entertaining a notion that they may fancy another would invite the other to go on a date. The acceptance or declination of the invitation is the answer to the burning question, does she like me? Marvelous. First awkward fucking situation out of the way. Now upon acceptance, the inevitable butterflies of anticipation for a planned date sets the stage for a good feelings and curiosity. There were no expectations or obligations at this point. The time set aside for the first date is primarily dedicated to seeing if you two were even remotely compatible to start with and to confirm your feelings weren't just a belly full of gas. You may have actually liked a person enough to want to devote more time with them, or find out if they even liked you enough to agree to another date. I mean, let's say you've gone on a couple dates with this person and then you see a trait in that person that you don't like. And you just know, because an ex did the same fucking thing, that it is going to make life intolerable having to actually deal with the person behind the sex glands every day. Well, because of the miracle concept that is dating, you didn't have to find that trait the hard way, after you made a stupid decision. That simple. No breaking up, or emotional baggage because things never got that far. You decide you don't like them? Then you just don't set another fucking date. Holy fuck. What a concept. If you hit it off and things went well, then you set another date and maybe hold her hand this time. See if it fits yours. Or you set a third, or a fourth date only to ultimately discover that she eats her boogers when she thinks nobody is looking. And then you move on, legitimately with no baggage from the last experience. The only thing you should be carrying with you is the refined knowledge you gained from the actual interaction that allows you to be more aware of what it is that you yourself are actually looking for, want, and are willing to tolerate. Because let's be honest here. Sex is realistically maybe 10% of a relationship, and that's being generous. If you can't deal with the person's face the other 90% of the time that you aren't fucking, what's the point exactly? Self-induced misery? The purpose of this old-fangled dating thing was so that people could play the field, maybe, find their match, without having to be worried as immediately being considered by others as a thing, and thus expected to be together, and a couple, in a relationship subjected to and bound by all the customary yet floofy and meaningless, yet seemingly obligatory stereotypical vocal pleasantries. I love you. Lady. I just met you. Don't you dare fucking manipulate me. I am not obliged to conform to some stupid fucked up cookie cutter relationship definition like it's the law, simply because that's what everyone else thinks is normal to employ. And they only think that because the overwhelming mass of idiots have been deluded into thinking lust is love. Fuck that. I rebel from that fucked up thinking and moral bankruptcy. It appears to be permeating our society, eroding the very integrity our lives are balanced on. An encounter with a woman that could potentially have been the start of some sort of awesome relationship had it started on the right foundation is now innately awkward with uncertain expectations right from the get-go. Interpersonal relationships have seemingly evolved more suitably to the conditions of polygamy, judging by how they currently seem to dysfunctionally operate without morals. An example is every single time I get to know a woman well enough to determine whether or not there's something real there that I want a part of my life and is worth pursuing. Just when I start to feel like, hey, I might just like this chick. This might work. My meter redlines because I realize she's in it for sex or would probably be scandalous later by how she is acting now, and I have to deliberately pass up or even fuck up the opportunity before anything got remotely physical and feelings got hurt. Why sail the boat if you know it's gonna fucking sink? Call it intuition or whatever, but I spend enough time around someone. Eventually I'll get a sort of feel, or a flash of insight, a suddenly clear view of a deal breaker down the timeline of a potential future relationship. A sort of anti-compatibility tip-off that alerts me to the probable psychological manifestation of a long-neglected and undesirable personality trait gone ugly. I know from experience certain attitudes go with a certain type of character traits that I simply cannot deal with. This intuition is based on my usually readily available gut feeling, and that person's portrayed intellect, idiosyncratic behavior, how they treat others, how they talk about those that are not there, how they treat themselves, how they treat me, obvious fakes, corrupt morals, revealing micro looks, intents not followed through with, etc., etc. Sound harsh? Sound selfish? When it comes to the rest of your life, why shouldn't you be? Date with both eyes open, marry with one eye shut. Weed from the chaff. That being said, even though I can't help but notice those glaring red flags that scream don't do it whilst getting to know someone, I still don't completely trust myself not to make an emotional and probably stupid decision, despite knowing the warnings, while intoxicated by the attention of a gorgeous woman, drunkenly blinded with the sexual idea. What if willpower is not a trait I've mastered by a long shot? I am only human. Could I stop myself from going along with her? Successfully fight a mind-bogglingly powerful desire that is primal, animalistic, and part of the instinctual baseline fight or flight brain function? Just whimsically dismiss that type of lust that can so utterly seize the mind of a man that it renders him almost incapable of any higher brain function? Could I just dismiss the seductive whispers of an attractive woman that was directly and blatantly coming onto me? Even though I know I should? I honestly don't know. Never been tested that way. Well, I have, but not by one I liked back just as much. Those feelings are stupefyingly hard to shove aside at times, especially with no common ground of social framework, culture, customs, or moral inhibitions being taught to the youth today. Kids following forever the bad examples of their parents. That is what leads to cheating, promiscuous men and morally bankrupt women, and vice versa, because you best believe this shit highway runs both ways. I understand just how potent and driving these desires can be. I've crossed the deplorable line myself more than once, catching your id showing through, in a situation where you could get away with, and knowingly be morally detestable, especially if it's at least not objected to by the other person. That, my friends, is the epitome of the devil and angel on your shoulder. We all want to cut loose and just not give a shit, and most of us have. But wanting to do it and having done it doesn't make doing it right. And others having done it doesn't justify your stupid fucking ass from continuing the bastard cycle. Right is right even if nobody's doing it. Wrong is wrong even if everybody's doing it. Self-sabotage can save your ass? New application of an old concept. Recognizing, hey, I fucked up, and nipping your own dumb choice in the ass before you can dig your hole any deeper. Anybody else do this intentionally at times, other than me? Ideally it'd be before you get to the point at which you realize you don't want to do this anymore, or that you made a mistake that fucked with the framework of someone else's life because they were serious and you weren't. Though by the time the used person realizes the extent to which they were used, the damage is done. It's way too late to go back now, and no matter what you say, you're just going to be that fucking prick that used somebody for sex. I call you a piece of shit because you knowingly choose to manipulate the emotional energy of someone else for your own selfish satisfaction. You let them live a delusion only you knew was a lie, whose only fruit was to wreck the capability of the fucked over to be emotionally invested in and actually trust the next person who genuinely doesn't intend on usury. Shit got serious, and because you're a fucking coward, you bailed. You bailed because you got fucking caught pretending to give a shit whilst using somebody in the worst way possible. You bailed because you know what you did was wrong, and being around somebody you fucked over that knows what you did still triggers some semblance of guilt, which ironically proves in some way you're still fucking human and there's maybe some hope for you yet. Though I doubt it. These opportunities of playing the field that I wrote of before primarily present themselves in the midst of late-night conversations with a new friend or a few different friends in different places and groups of people and situations. But my point is, I've been paying more attention, now, again. And I don't like what I'm finding. I'm conflicted. Yeah, I feel like I need more out of life in the way of physical affection, and I want a goddamn real hug I don't have to use one arm for or stick my ass out for. But if the only way I can be close to someone is through an artificially generated and morally relative fucking version of a relationship, I say fuck that. I'll use my hand and date my motorcycle. My patience for people's inability to deal with and swallow the cold hard fucking truth in this matter, whether they like to hear it or not, is wearing thin. Am I able to just not give two shits who gets uptight over my personal fucking opinions? I'm just completely dumbfounded with a realization that nice guys really do finish last. It feels to me as though actually looking for a meaningful and truly sincere and functional relationship, however much I feel is, though it would comfort me in some way to be with a woman that I could unquestionably trust, and for whom I'd be willing to pull back the razor wire for, is a complete and utter waste of time. It will happen on its own, or it just won't. After nearly 4 years of keeping as much distance from the opposite sex as possible, and then months of friend zone, I don't want or need any more tits in glass jars constantly reminding me of the fucked up virtues society uses to translate lust into love. I'm sick of seeing good people make bad choices for sex, then getting duped into settling for lust, getting fucked over, realizing it, wanting out of a situation they put themselves into, yet doing the very same fucking thing over again and expecting a different result. Talk about fucking stupid. But hey, I did it too once. Years ago. I just fucking grew up and decided there's more to relationships than sex and money. It appears as though that I may be wrong about that though. I still foolishly hold some hope and might just be willing to touch that hot fucking stove if the right woman comes around.